In the historic city of New Albany, one landmark towers above the rest, a 170-year-old church that was once a stop on the Underground Railroad. Mitch Legan reports on the community's dedication to keeping its Black history alive.
The Reverend Leroy Marshall didn't really want the job when he first applied.
I didn't think much about it, and then they called me back and asked me to come back, and came back again, and kicking and screaming, I became pastor.
Then assistant pastor of a Baptist congregation in Louisville, Marshall didn't know much about the old rundown church just a few hundred yards north of the Ohio River.
It was a mess.
But he took the job at the church with its broken windows and leaky roof, and is glad he did. If he hadn't, he says one of Indiana's most important historical locations was on its way to being condemned.
It's one of the keys to the Underground Railroad in this area. And you can't underestimate the importance of this congregation.
The building is called Town Clock Church because of its 160-foot clock tower. It was built in 1852 for a congregation of Presbyterian abolitionists. New Albany's location on the Ohio River made it a hub for commerce and shipbuilding, and its position right on the Mason-Dixon line made it a hub for African-American activity.
It was just an extremely important area because of the African-American communities on both sides of the river helping each other, and then the connection with the community here and the New School Presbyterians at this particular place.
Since New Albany depended on business with Kentucky, the city had a reputation for being pro-slavery. But convinced of slavery's evil, the Presbyterian congregation went out of its way to help escaped blacks, and the church became an integral stop on the Underground Railroad.
So the idea maybe have been to give them shelter here for a night, maybe down here, maybe not. I mean, sanctuary is called sanctuary for a reason.
Peterson says the church itself was likely more of an organizing place for local abolitionists, and much of the actual work would have occurred at missions established on the riverbank.
They helped them there with food, with clothing, with, yes, a way to get out of this dangerous Ohio River Valley.
Those who made it to New Albany weren't safe by any means. Slave catchers were often in hot pursuit, and the nation's fugitive slave laws meant returning enslaved people to Southern owners could be lucrative. And while the end goal was to get to the wilderness north of Salem, those who saw the church's soaring clock tower knew freedom was within reach.
Word passed around with them that this was a place of safety, that if they could just get over here, it was like a pot of gold. If they could just get across to that, over that ribbon of water to that church.
So in 2012, when the church was nearing its last legs, Finn, Marshall, and a group of community leaders formed Friends of the Town Clock Church. Earlier fundraising efforts collected $350 auctioning commemorative bricks, but the group estimated it'd take almost $500,000 to refurbish the church.
Most people, when they heard $480,000, said, "We are crazy, there's no way that would happen."
But it did, and it shattered expectations. Today, the church has received nearly $1 million, enough to replace the steeple that had burned in 1915. And there are even plans to build an Underground Railroad center next door.
It's more important than ever to tell the story of people who were willing and courageous enough to do the right thing, even in the face of great danger.
Marshall agrees and says in light of everything that's happened the past year, Town Clock Church provides an example of Americans coming together for a bigger cause, whether we're discussing events from centuries ago or even ones this decade.
A lot of times we talk about doing certain things along racial lines, improving racial tensions and that kind of thing. But this community, for 12 years, has been in here with us every step of the way. So it can be done.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Mitch Legan.